have to take a shear pin out somewhere down the road, it all comes apart easier instead of having to beat it apart and put it back together. Semi-annually, and under semi-annually, that's where the reducer is going to fall. Again, that's 10,000 hours or every 2 years. You're going to look at the reducer, look for any leaks, see how it looks, see if it's hot, see the motor's running hot, that type of thing. Any bolts loose, tighten them up. Leaks, that's probably the biggest thing you'll be looking for if there's any leaks in it. Just observation, but 10,000 hours or every 2 years on the gear reducer. Safety precaution, just make sure you got the guards on. If you're around the thing working, just watch yourself while the thing's running if you're around it. And if you are working on it, make sure you lock the thing out. It's locked out while you're working on it. Okay, repair parts and replacement parts. Got a number there you can call, email address. You need to talk about anything, ask any questions, talk about parts, see about ordering parts, that type of thing. So, okay, let's go over to this page here. It says 1 down here and a PM1 in the corner there. This is your gearbox reducer on the grit system. 3 horsepower with an explosion-proof motor. Some information there on it. Some tells you what type they are. It's an R97 and an R57. The R97 is the large box, and the R57 is the small box. Okay, let's take it over to the next page.
Say that again. The R57 is the larger box?
The R57 is a large box.
Right.
Wait. R97 is a large box,
57 is small.
and 57 is a small box.
And these are all metric, right? The keys are metric?
The keys,
Yeah,
I think the keys are okay. Just I know the plugs in it are metric,
metric, but they're.
and I imagine the bolts and stuff are in there are metric. Because I run into problems. I know it's a 5 millimeter on the 5 on some of them, and 5.5
Yeah.
on some of the plugs to drain to check the level of things.
I'd say the keys were metric too, because everything, it shows metric numbers.
Does it show metric on there?
Only for the keys, yes.
Yeah, okay. I think on our print when we order the sprocket, we order no I don't. Because the sprocket, the Eurodrive people supply the key, but our keyway is,
Is standard?
Standard
So you
keyway.
got- So you got a,
no, it fits on tight. It's a nice tight fit. Because at the shop, I see them pounding the thing. Don't do that, you know. Let's ream the hole, let's sand the hole out a little bit so it slides on and put the key in. Yeah. So, yeah, it's there's probably a lot of things on it that are metric. So,
it's a standard sprocket.
it's a standard sprocket. Now, when we order the bore on the sprocket, we give them, we say we want it 1 5/8 or 2 1/4, that type of thing. So we give them a standard size. There is some things that are metric that you can cross the line and fit with standard. But I know the plugs are metric on it for draining. Okay. Let's go to the shear pin sprocket, page 2. Okay. The collar I was talking about is C. Now they call it a retaining ring. And this is a cutaway drawing. Half of it, you're just seeing half the sprocket from the side. So that retainer ring C is held on with 2 set screws. If you look down there, H is one of the set screws, and the other one's taken out of the picture. So what you want to do is you blow a shear pin out of it. You take and unloosen the 2 set screws. And I think they're 5/16 quarters, I think. You unloosen 2 set screws, and you take that collar or retainer ring, you have to pull it off. Now, like I say, that's a nice tight fit, so you put a couple screwdrivers and walk this thing off. Then you get it off. While you got it off, check and see if there's, where the set screws were at, you're going to leave a little burr. So take a file and kind of clean that up so when you go back on, you don't have to beat the thing on. So, okay, now you've got the retainer ring off. You're going to expose the back side of the shear pin. It's got a roll pin in it. It's in a round hole, so you reach up there and pull the back part of the shear pin out. if the other part is not close enough, then you're gonna have to jog it around and push the backside out. Okay, now you're ready to put the new one in. And if you go to line them up, you can take the cover off the back of the fan, turn it by finger, and line the holes up, and clean your pan up, put a little grease on it, never sees, and tap it in the hole. And then the collar, push the collar on, push it up against the sprocket, and you'll have a little gap behind the sprocket. That's acceptable. They build about 1/8 of an inch gap in that. So shove everything back as far as you can, tighten the set screws down, and you're ready to go. If you blow another shear pin, and there's something in something binding up or something down there stuck, and you have to find out what's wrong with it. Like I say, it's got a grease fitting on it, but once a year, recommend to take it apart, check everything, clean everything, grease everything, see how it's wearing. Okay, go over to page 3. This is your large driven sprocket, 34 tooth, cast iron, set screwed to the head shaft with 2 set screws, got a key in it. And maintenance, there's no maintenance on it, it's an observation type. I'm gonna do that. Thought I turned that in. 2 set screws and got a key in it. Maintenance, there's no maintenance, an observation. Take a look at the sprocket, see how it's wearing. Lubrication, like I say, when you lubricate the chain, it's gonna get some lubrication on that sprocket. Make sure it stays, hasn't moved on you, that type of thing. Let's go over to the next page. And that's your drive chain, that's your roller chain. Large end forward. Tensioning, 1 inch minimum. Max, you can go a little more than 1 inch. If you have 2 inches, that's no problem. Just make sure it don't drag on the bottom chain guard when it's running, type thing. Again, I don't see nothing wrong with lubricating it when you lubricate the bearings. Put a little bit of lightweight oil on the chain. Okay, let's go over to 5. This is your head shaft sprockets. Now these are cast iron with your plastic teeth on. So these are on your head shaft. They're keyed, they're split. You can change out the teeth without taking the thing off the shaft. Maintenance, there's no maintenance on them. It's an observation type thing, see how they're wearing, and that type of thing. Lubrication, it's going to get some out of the water when it runs, the bucket comes up the dump. Okay, let's go over to 6. And these are your all UHM sprockets. And this drawing here, instead of having the hub on each side, it's got the hub all on one side. We call that a B hub. So there's been some changes made since I printed these up. So they're all UHMW, they're split. You have a free one and a set one. The free one's again running collars or up against the bearing. The set is got set screws. It's set screwed to the shaft. Now you've got 2 of these on the take-up sprocket, take-up shaft, and when you go down to the tank, at the first shaft before it goes to the back, those sprockets are all plastic, UHMW with the B hub type. Then you go to the back, and they're all cast iron with plastic teeth on. You come back up to the front, going back up the head, those are cast iron with plastic. So the only ones that are all plastic is the one on the head shaft, take-up shaft, and the first shaft in the tank. The rest of them are cast iron with plastic teeth, and again, they're free or set. You'll have a free sprocket or a set sprocket. And so when you drain the tank, you're down there checking things, make sure the free sprocket is free. It's rotating in the collars, so it stays free. So check on that when you do that. Go over to the next page. It's the same thing, it's the same thing as the idler sprocket we just talked about. One of them's set screwed and one of them's plain bore. That's, so if you call them and ask them about your idler sprockets, first thing they'll ask you is you talking about the plain bore or are you talking about the set screws? So set screws is called set and the plain bore is called your free sprocket. Okay, let's go to 80. These are your bearings on your head shaft. Got a Babbitt liner in it. Again, once a week on the lubrication. Okay, let's go to 9. This is the chain, the carrying chain that's on the unit. Again, open end forward, large end forward is travel. It's a coated chain. And lubrication is be lubricated out of the water, in the water while it's running. Maintenance, there's no maintenance, just observation type thing. See how it looks, see how it's holding up. Go over to 10, another page on the chain, shows the cotter keys and the pin. Go to 11. That's your sewage bearing that's down in the tank. Got a grease fitting, Babbitt line. Again, just when you drain the tank, it's not a bad idea to flush these out with some grease and clean them up, whatever collects in them. Just flush it out, and if it sits down there and you're not running it for a while, you want to exercise it and grease the bearings, make sure the shafts don't seize up in the bearings. Okay, let's go to 12. Now skip 12, that's just an anchor bolt. Go to 13. Okay, got plastic buckets on it, polyurethane bucket. It's got shoes on shoe holders on each side for 2 shoes on each side, and the shoes are polyurethane. And one set of the shoes is for the return rail as it runs down the return rail to the back. And then the other set of shoes that runs on the floor on a wear strip. We got a UHMW wear strip in the floor that is anchored down to the floor. And it's, I think it's about 3 inches wide. So the shoe runs on that coming back up, and going down it runs on the return rail. The shoes are, so you can change them, you can rotate them, to when that side wears out, you can rotate them around to the next side. And about 1/4 inch of wear is what they're looking for. So don't get into the metal, you're not rubbing the holder's stainless, so you want to make sure the shoe's riding. You're not rubbing the holder. Again, the buckets is a polyurethane, plastic, no maintenance on anything. It's an observation. The only thing you'll be doing is somewhere down the road you'll be changing the shoes, rotating the shoes on. Okay. The wear strip and the floor. The only thing on the wear strip I can tell you is when you take the tank down, look at it, see if your anchors are held, it's tight. It's got a counter bore in it with what we call a weld washer, and make sure that it's not the wear strips down to the weld washer, and you're rubbing the weld washer on the top of the bolt that holds it down to the floor. They're 10 foot long, and we have what we call an intermediate section and a starter section. Starter section is always the travel of the bucket. It's your first one you start off with, and then the intermediate sections, and they're all mitered and chamfered so that the buckets, shoes don't catch on. So if you're looking to replace the wear strip, make sure you tell them it's got I'm looking at a starter strip or I'm looking at an intermediate strip. And in the manual it explains to what an intermediate and what a starter strip is. Okay, let's go over to page 13. 14. That's your cast iron collar, split, just no maintenance, observation, make sure it stays in place, stays tight, that type of thing. Next page, let's go over 15. Now this is a picture of the take-up, but the take-up don't have the threaded rod in it because you're using it to pull the weight up of the shaft with the weighted box. So basically, the only thing you're using is the bearing out of that. So again, the bearing gets greased weekly. Then you got a centralized location there. When you grease the head shaft bearings, you can grease this too. Okay, let's go over to 16. It's got a sprayer system in it with some sprayers. These are your nozzles. It sets up to the top, stainless. There's no maintenance on them. The only thing you might have to do is you guys use potable water for running through your sprayer? No?
So,
They might get clogged up somewhere down the road. You might have to take them out and unclog them. The sprayers can be, it's on a pipe up there, and they're adjusted to clean the buckets out. Amount of water, amount of spray is gonna have to be determined. You're gonna have to determine if you're getting too much water in them. Cut the spray down, that type of thing. I've seen here recently, everybody seems to be complaining about too much water, so I don't know, because they're getting water. This system's got a compactor on it that squeezes the grit out. I'm not sure. Does it?
No.
So it dumps out the dewatering screw onto the belt, dumps into a hopper.
That's correct.
Okay. So everybody's been complaining about too much water in their grit. So you might wanna play with your spray amount of water, because it's gonna bring up water out of the channel. You're gonna have water in the bucket. There's no hole. Water's gonna stay in the bucket. So you're gonna have to see if you need the sprayer, or you just, what water's in the bucket cleans the bucket. They're plastic. Everything should slide out without maybe spraying it. So you're gonna have to look at that, see if you need to use a sprayer, cut it down, or use it just slightly, type thing.
Jack, downstream of the collector is the grit washer. You are applying water at that point.
You are applying at the grit washer next to the
Right.
yeah. So that's to keep the,
So the amount of water going to the grit collection system really doesn't
Doesn't
make
matter.
a lot of difference because it's going to the washing system after that.
okay. Yeah, cause what I found is last 3 or 4 jobs, everybody's complaining about they got too much water in their dewatering screw, and when it comes out the end, it's not really dry enough. Cause I guess they get charged for amount of weight going into the landfill, I guess. And everybody's complaining, well, I gotta cut too much, I gotta get the water out of it. It's got too much water in it.
I think in this case, in order to control the amount of water, there's a rear plate on
Yeah.
the grit washer.
I've got that set down as low as I can.
That's the way to adjust how much
Yeah,
water.
yeah, that's basically what you can do. Drop that down to its lowest point, cause everybody, like I say, last few I've done, everybody wants to take the weir plate down to its lowest level to keep the water down on it. So, you might have to look at that, you might have to look at the sprayer, see what you think about that. Okay, let's go with 17. Just a globe valve, nothing on there, no maintenance on that.